Welcome to a deep dive, where we take complex topics, mountains of information, and distill them into surprising facts and essential insights, giving you a real shortcut to being well-informed. Think of us as your personal guides through the most fascinating material. Today, we're embarking on a truly profound deep dive. We've been handed just a wealth of source material from Alcoholics Anonymous, its history, its foundational texts like the Big Book and the 12 and 12, and countless personal stories. Our mission: to really unpack the very essence of the program itself. Now, for those maybe less familiar, the program isn't just, a casual term. It's the collective name for the 12 steps and 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous, a structured pathway to recovery, and the guiding principles for its groups worldwide. We're going to explore, in quite some detail actually, how individuals embark on this journey, what specific steps they take day by day, and what transformation they experience as they, go through this process.
Indeed. It's quite an undertaking, isn't it? Exploring how a pathway to recovery is laid out, not just theoretically, which is interesting in itself, but through the lived experiences captured in these sources. We'll be looking at the practical application of, spiritual principles, the absolutely indispensable role of community, and the profound shift in perspective that occurs for those who commit to this path. Our sources, they really illuminate not just the what, but the how of this remarkable journey.
Right. So if you've ever wondered about the, let's say, the nuts and bolts of Alcoholics Anonymous, maybe beyond the headlines and the general perception, or if you're just intensely curious about what it truly means to go through the program day by day, step by step, well, you're in for a treat. We'll delve into the precise step-by-step process, grounded firmly in the voices and wisdom of those who built this fellowship, and importantly, continue to live its principles today. Okay, let's unpack this journey then. Many stories in our sources, they seem to begin with a moment of crisis, often referred to as hitting bottom. Now, for those maybe unfamiliar, it sounds like a prerequisite, doesn't it? Like a specific low point you have to reach. But what does it really mean in the context of recovery? And why is that initial realization, that moment, so crucial for someone to even consider a program like AA?
That's a really crucial distinction you're making. Because what's fascinating here is that hitting bottom isn't about achieving some kind of specific measurable low point in life, like losing a job or ending up in jail, although those things certainly can happen. Instead, it's more accurately described as a powerful catalyst. It's a deeply personal moment of absolute desperation. As one of our key texts, 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, puts it, few people will sincerely try to practice the AA program unless they have hit bottom.
Sincerely try. That's telling.
It is. It's not about a physical place, but a profound internal state where one becomes willing to try something different, as noted in Daily Reflections. It's the sheer, often excruciating pain of active alcoholism, what the sources describe as total bankruptcy, not just financial, but emotional, spiritual bankruptcy. When everything meaningful in one's life, from relationships to self-respect, seems irrevocably gone, that's what truly drives individuals to seek help.
So it's this internal state of collapse almost.
Exactly. This extreme, often unbearable state is frequently the only thing that breaks down that fierce, almost impenetrable resistance that alcoholics previously had to any external advice or intervention. It's the moment the ego, the part that says, I can handle this, so long in control, finally surrenders its illusion of power. The pain just becomes too great to maintain the facade.
So it's not a physical place, but this profound psychological and emotional breaking point. Can you share some examples from the stories in our sources, things that really paint this picture vividly?
Oh, absolutely. The sources are filled with these deeply personal, often harrowing accounts that illustrate this surrender. Take the powerful story of the woman in the Big Book, Alcoholics Anonymous, the 4th edition. She had been drunk for 9 days, sick and alone and desperate, before she finally made that call to AA. Her realization was chillingly clear, a stark choice, she felt. She said, if I were to go back to drinking, it would be just a matter of time before one of two things happened. I'd succeed at suicide, or I'd start the life of the living dead.
Wow, the living dead, that's stark.
It is. That profound fear of the living dead was her bottom, a moment of absolute clarity born from utter despair. Then there's another account from Alcoholics Anonymous Comes of Age, describing how the defiant personality was licked by the very excesses of its own behavior, leading to a tremendous sense of humility.
Licked by its own excesses.
Yes. The sheer misery they experience forces them to confront a brutal truth they had avoided for so long. Their own self-knowledge, their willpower, their sheer resolve. None of it was ever enough to beat the addiction. Many, as we read, tried desperately to taper off their drinking, only to find they always tapered on instead of off. That phrase really sticks, doesn't it?
It really does. Tapering on instead of off. It paints such a vivid picture of that futility of trying to control something that has become utterly unmanageable.
It sounds incredibly lonely, too, to be in a battle all by yourself. But you mentioned something interesting earlier, quoting the literature, being powerless over alcohol is no big deal. How can that be? For so many, admitting powerlessness feels like the ultimate defeat, the final crushing blow. How is it no big deal? Right, you've hit on a crucial point, and it really lies at the very heart of the first step. It sounds completely paradoxical, I know, but the truly profound insight here, as daily reflections and as Bill sees it powerfully convey, is that admitting that defeat isn't weakness, it's actually the beginning of real strength. Imagine spending years, maybe even decades, in that desperate losing battle, consumed by the illusion of control, fighting your own mind, your own body.
Utterly exhausting.
Exactly. The sheer relief when that fight is finally given up, when you just stop fighting, that's where the liberation truly lies. It removes the immense burden of fighting a losing battle alone. It frees up all that mental and emotional energy previously consumed by the struggle, the planning, the hiding, the justifying. This is why being powerless over alcohol is no big deal, becomes a moment of profound freedom for many. It's the crucial first admission described in step 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. It's about letting go of the illusion of control and acknowledging that self-will wasn't and never would be the answer. It's the very first step onto a new path, and perhaps surprisingly, it's often the first breath of true freedom they've taken in years.
That recognition of defeat leading to liberation. It's such a counterintuitive idea, isn't it? But it makes complete sense when you consider the sheer exhaustion of fighting that losing battle. So, okay, once this fundamental admission is made, this acceptance of powerlessness, where do individuals turn? They've admitted they don't have the power. So where do they look for a solution? It sounds like they're looking for something beyond themselves, maybe something they'd previously dismissed or even ridiculed.
That's the very next absolutely critical step in this journey. Once you admit powerlessness, the program immediately introduces the idea of a power greater than ourselves. Now, for some, maybe many, this can be a significant hurdle, especially for those who identify as agnostic or atheist, or perhaps just have had negative experiences with organized religion in the past.
Yeah, that God stuff can be a real sticking point for people.
It absolutely can. But step 2 came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity, as stated in 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, is designed with really remarkable flexibility. The crucial phrase, and I really cannot emphasize this enough, is, as we understood, him, or her, or it, or them. The pronoun isn't the point.
As we understood.
Precisely. That single phrase opens the door for a very personal, very individual interpretation. It moves beyond rigid religious doctrine and embraces a much broader spiritual concept. It meets people where they are.
As we understood him. That is a key distinction, isn't it? It opens the door so widely. I'm really curious, though, for someone coming into AA, maybe with a strong aversion to traditional religious language, how does the fellowship practically make this concept of a higher power accessible? Are there common initial struggles people have with step 2, and what are the typical ways those are navigated within the community based on the sources?
That's a fantastic question, and yes, it's a very common initial struggle. AA doesn't mandate any specific religious belief whatsoever. It emphatically emphasizes a spiritual awakening, which can manifest in incredibly diverse ways. For many newcomers, particularly those struggling with the concept of God, the group itself can serve as that initial higher power. That's something pointed out in As Bill Sees It.
The group, how does that work?
Well, think about it. The collective strength, the shared wisdom, the tangible evidence of recovery within the group that becomes a power greater than their own individual failing self. The fellowship itself becomes a restoring force. This flexibility is absolutely vital for its broad and inclusive appeal. We read, for instance, about an educated agnostic in experienced strength and hope. He found the concept of God nonsensical initially, but he was deeply grateful for the conversations he had in AA and eventually found his path. He gradually acquired belief over time, simply by observing the positive changes in others and becoming open to the possibility.
So it wasn't forced, it was more like osmosis.
In a way, yes. Or for others, the realization is simpler, more direct, like the member who shared in daily reflections that they found God was speaking to me through my group. The experience is often described as a gradual softening of resistance. Like one person put it in the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, the minute I stopped arguing, I could begin to see and feel. Right there, step 2 gently and very gradually began to infiltrate my life. It's less about intellectual acceptance up front and more about an experiential shift. It's about being willing to try believing, or even just being willing to believe that others believe and it works for them, rather than needing to have it all figured out from day one.
That sounds like a much softer approach, an invitation rather than a demand. Not being forced to believe, but just opening up, becoming willing to entertain the idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so once that belief, however it's understood, begins to form, maybe just a crack of willingness opens. What's the next critical decision someone makes in this program? What's the practical application of that budding faith or openness?
That leads directly and logically to step 3, which is another really pivotal point in the recovery journey. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Again, that qualifier is key. Now, this isn't about passive surrender or just giving up control in a weak, defeated sense. Quite the opposite, actually. It's described in 12 steps and 12 traditions as the opening of a door which to all appearances is still closed and locked.
A locked door.
Yes, and the only one key to this door, the sources emphasize time and again, is willingness. It's an active, intentional decision to align oneself with a greater purpose, to step away from the self-direction, the self-will that previously led to such misery and unmanageability. It's the critical shift from fighting against something like alcohol to actively aligning with something larger and more positive, whatever that higher power means to the individual.
So it's an intentional, conscious act of, well, letting go of the reins, isn't it? It sounds like moving from an unconscious, often self-centered way of living to a conscious, perhaps spiritually guided one.
Precisely. Daily Reflections powerfully emphasizes that even the smallest amount of willingness, if sincere, is sufficient to allow God to enter and take control over any problem, pain, or obsession. This decision is fundamentally about releasing the grip of self-will and self-centeredness, which another text, 24 Hours a Day, identifies as the primary drivers of past woes and the root cause of the spiritual illness underlying addiction. This shift from relying solely on oneself to reliance on a higher power is absolutely foundational to the program. It's described as transforming worries and fears into serenity, helping individuals realize that their adult dreams were often truly childish, driven by unreasonable fears or anxieties because they were rooted in self-serving desires rather than a greater, more balanced perspective.
Childish dreams.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yes, because they were often based on getting something, security, romance, prestige, rather than contributing something or aligning with deeper principles. Step 3 is the crucial turning point from merely accepting powerlessness to actively seeking a new power source to guide one's life. It opens the door to a completely different way of navigating the world. It's where the practical work of building a new life truly begins.
Okay, so with this new willingness, this active decision to turn things over, the program then asks for something that sounds, well, pretty intense. A searching and fearless moral inventory. Huh. That sounds like a monumental undertaking for anyone, let alone someone who's maybe just come out of the fog of active addiction.
Yeah.
What does that involve, practically speaking, and why is it considered so important for establishing a stable foundation in recovery?
It absolutely is a significant undertaking, no question, and often a daunting one for people starting out. But it is fundamentally crucial for understanding oneself and building a new, honest foundation. Step 4 made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves, as laid out in 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, is a deep, honest self-appraisal. It's about systematically dissecting the wreckage of the past. The Big Book, the foundational text, actually details a specific practical approach. It's not just vague navel-gazing. It urges individuals to look honestly at 4 key areas: their resentments, their fears, their conduct in relationships, often termed sex conduct in the original text, but encompassing all relational dynamics, and the harms they cause to others.
Resentments, fears, relationships, and harms caused.
Okay. Right. For instance, with resentments, it's not just listing who you're angry at, it's digging into why, what part of you felt threatened. Your self-esteem, your security, your ambitions. Was it a situation where you were truly wronged, or was your ego just massively bruised? It asks you to look at your part in it. With fears, it's about identifying what truly paralyzes you: fear of failure, fear of criticism, fear of financial insecurity, and understanding how that fear often drives destructive, self-centered actions. It's about seeing how our self-will, often fueled by distorted natural instincts for security, social standing, or personal relationships, frequently led us astray. This systematic process helps identify core issues like selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear, as outlined in Alcoholics Anonymous, not just as vague character traits, but as powerful drivers of destructive behavior.
So it's not just about listing, the bad things you did, but really understanding the underlying motivations, the character defects behind them, peeling back the layers of self-deception and justification.
Exactly. It requires immense willingness, as the text says, but once people get past the initial, maybe high hurdles of looking at this stuff, the path often begins to look easier because individuals start to gain perspective on ourselves, which, as the literature points out, is really another way of saying they are gaining in humility. They start seeing themselves more clearly. This step lays the groundwork for profound personal accountability. It involves recognizing that defective relations with other human beings have nearly always been the immediate cause of our woes, including our alcoholism. It's a powerful insight from Daily Reflections.
Wow, defective relations is the immediate cause.
Yeah. It underscores the profound shift in self-perception that this step facilitates. It's about taking responsibility for one's part, however small it might seem sometimes, in the chaos of the past, rather than just blaming other people or circumstances. It's the practical application of honesty to one's inner world, really preparing the ground for real change.
And the next part, step 5. Admitting those wrongs, the exact nature of them, not just to yourself and your higher power, but to another human being, that must be incredibly difficult. The idea of laying bare your deepest faults, your shame, your secrets to someone else. What's the profound benefit or even the necessity of such a confession in this journey of recovery?
Indeed, it requires immense courage, no doubt about it, and a significant shedding of pride. But it is considered absolutely essential by the fellowship. Step 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs, as stated in 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, is central to breaking the deep-seated isolation that so often defines active alcoholism. Confession, as the source points out, is an ancient discipline. It's described as difficult but necessary to sobriety and peace of mind. The text is quite blunt. Without fearless admission of defects, few could stay sober. It's not simply about, getting things off your chest, although that's part of it. It's a powerful act of vulnerability that shatters the walls of self-imposed isolation and secrecy that kept the person sick.
It sounds like it's about more than just catharsis. It's a profound spiritual and emotional release, almost like a purge or lancing a boil. Is that how the sources portray it?
That's a good analogy. It absolutely is portrayed as a purification, a release of toxic secrets. One member, whose raw and honest story is shared in Experience, Strength, and Hope, described this process vividly. He said, "He dragged out all my sins of commission and omission. I told everything I could think of." He admitted, "Oh, it was pretty terrible, I thought then, to lay myself bare that way. But I know now that such is the first step away from the precipice, away from the edge of relapse or despair."
The first step away from the precipice.
Very. And the benefits are manifold, clearly articulated in 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. It leads to the beginning of true kinship with man and God, a crucial loss of that debilitating sense of isolation that so often plagues alcoholics. And importantly, the powerful experience of both receiving and eventually being able to offer forgiveness. This process cultivates true humility, which Daily Reflections notes is essential for long-term recovery. Often, the sponsor that Experience Guide will talk more about serves as the trusted confidant for this step. Someone who, as the big book puts it, knew what he was talking about in regard to alcoholism from actual experience, who talked my language and knew all the answers, and certainly not because he'd picked them up in his reading.
That lived experience is key.
Absolutely. This act of honesty and vulnerability, spoken aloud to another human being who understands, is what truly opens the door to ongoing serenity and profound peace of mind. It frees the individual from the crushing weight of their past secrets.
Okay, so individuals have bravely confronted their past, they've seen their defects laid bare, maybe for the first time, and they've even shared them with another person, shedding that immense burden of isolation. But what happens next? How does this deep self-honesty translate into actually changing these ingrained patterns? What's the shift in mindset that allows for true, lasting transformation, not just awareness?
Right, because awareness is crucial, but it's not enough on its own. With that deep self-honesty established in Step 5, the program then shifts focus squarely onto active willingness and surrender, moving from introspection to action. The next steps focus intensely on this action and the readiness to change. Step 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character, as described in 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, is a truly pivotal point. It's about abandoning any limited objectives for one's recovery.
Limited objectives, what does that mean?
It means not just wanting to stop drinking, or maybe just wanting the worst consequences to go away. It means truly wanting a fundamental change in character across the board. It moves wholeheartedly towards God's will for us, which in AA context often translates to aligning with universal spiritual principles like honesty, kindness, integrity, humility, and selflessness. The text gives a pretty strong warning here. Delay is dangerous and rebellion may be fatal. This isn't merely intellectual understanding anymore, it's an active, humble embrace of fundamental transformation. It's the difference between acknowledging a flaw, like selfishness, and genuinely wanting it gone, being ready for it to be removed, opening the door for a higher power to assist in reshaping one's inner landscape. It's about reaching a state of total readiness, a complete willingness to let go of those old ways.
Okay, that makes sense. The readiness. And that readiness then leads directly into asking for those shortcomings to be removed, which is step 7, right? What's the nuance there? It sounds quite similar to step 6. How do we differentiate being ready from actively asking?
Exactly. The nuance is crucial, and it's a point people sometimes get stuck on. Step 6 is about becoming ready. It's the internal preparation, the emotional and spiritual posture of willingness for change. Step 7 is the action that follows that readiness. It states, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. Here, humility isn't about humiliation or groveling or thinking you're worthless. It's about a realistic, honest self-assessment, a recognition of your place in the universe, maybe, a realization that your own willpower alone cannot remove these deeply ingrained defects of character. You need help. As 12 Steps and 12 Traditions emphasizes, without some degree of humility, no alcoholic can stay sober at all. It's realizing you don't have all the answers, and you need help beyond your own capabilities. And beyond just staying sober, the text suggests a greater degree of humility is necessary for true happiness and for being able to summon the faith that can meet any emergency.
So humility is like the key to accessing that faith.
In many ways, yes. It involves recognizing that previous demands for security, prestige, and romance, and the attempts to satisfy them through drinking and sheer self-will, only led to disaster. This realization opens the door to a new outlook where immense values come straight out of painful ego puncturing. It's about letting go of the ego's grip on those character defects and inviting a spiritual solution to truly reshape one's inner landscape, allowing for a character transformation that was previously impossible through self-effort alone.
And then comes making amends, steps 8 and 9. This feels like a very tangible, real-world way to rectify the past, to start repairing the damage caused during active addiction. How does the program approach this? What's the practical methodology for undertaking such a significant and potentially difficult task?
The process of making amends is detailed quite meticulously in steps 8 and 9, building directly on the introspection and willingness developed in the previous steps. Step 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. The first part is creating that comprehensive list. And this isn't just a quick jot down on the back of an envelope. It involves deep reflection on the past, using the insights gained from the Step 4 inventory. It asks individuals to identify everyone they've harmed, not just financially or physically, but emotionally, spiritually, people they might have neglected, lied to, let down. Then, and this is crucial, the second part of Step 8, becoming willing to make amends to them all. That willingness is key. It's about developing the right attitude to proceed, letting go of justifications or lingering resentments.
Becoming willing, even before making the amends themselves.
Exactly. Daily Reflections notes that the desire for forgiveness of others and myself is a strong motivator for this step, pushing people towards that willingness. It's seen as essential for achieving emotional freedom by addressing those defective relations with other human beings that so often fueled the drinking. It's the preparation for true reconciliation and healing, a practical step towards clearing the conscience.
So it's not just a passive list, but a deep psychological and spiritual preparation for action and healing. It sounds like clearing the decks, as you said before.
Precisely. And that action is Step 9. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. This is where the rubber meets the road. This step requires, as 12 Steps and 12 Traditions clearly states, good judgment, a careful sense of timing, courage, and prudence.
Except when to do so would injure them or others. That seems like a really important caveat.
It's hugely important. It's not about making reckless, self-serving apologies just to clear your own conscience if doing so would, say, reveal an affair to an innocent spouse or implicate someone else unnecessarily or dredge up trauma for the person harmed in a damaging way. It's about thoughtfully considering how and when to approach those harmed and always asking, would making this direct amend actually cause more harm, especially to innocent third parties or families? The sources illustrate the potential power of this step with the experience of Sister Ignatia, who worked closely with Dr. Bob, one of AA's co-founders at St. Thomas Hospital. She strongly believed in the ninth step. She recalled how early members would return from making amends feeling that those they had harmed were now their best friends, underscoring the profound reconciliation that can occur when amends are made sincerely and thoughtfully. However, the step also cautions, as we noted, that sometimes complete disclosures could cause more harm than good. So careful consideration, prayer, and often a sponsor's guidance are strongly advised before taking action.
So it requires real discernment.
Absolutely. This whole process, steps 8 and 9, is about systematically clearing the wreckage of the past. It directly addresses the resentments, jealousy, envy, self-pity, or hurt pride that frequently trigger drinking. By engaging in this honest, courageous, and discerning process, individuals gain profound serenity and a peace of mind that was previously unimaginable. It closes old chapters, freeing up emotional and spiritual energy for the new life.
Okay, so once these initial, deeply transformative steps are taken, from admitting powerlessness right through to making amends, how does the program become a sustained way of life, rather than just a sort of one-time cleanup operation? How do individuals practically maintain this transformation and continue their growth day in, day out?
That's where the final 3 steps, the ongoing maintenance steps, come in. They're designed to transform those profound insights and experiences into daily practice, weaving them into the fabric of everyday life. Step 10, for example, is all about continuous self-awareness and real-time course correction. It reads, continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. We discuss them with someone immediately and make amends quickly if we've harmed anyone.
Continue to watch, discuss immediately, make amends quickly. Sounds like constant vigilance.
It is, in a way, but it's not meant to be burdensome. This isn't a one-time inventory like step 4. It's described in Alcoholics Anonymous as a daily inventory, or even a spot check inventory throughout the day. Daily Reflections emphasizes that this practice is not an overnight matter. It should continue for our lifetime. It calls for prompt correction of mistakes, acknowledging the propensity toward ego, fear, and pride that makes this a tough task for most human beings. It's about catching those subtle shifts in attitude, a flash of anger, a dishonest thought, a surge of fear before they can escalate into larger problems or, crucially, lead back towards a drink.
So it's about catching those old patterns before they can really take root again, almost like daily spiritual hygiene. Is that a fair way to put it?
That's a great way to put it. Daily spiritual hygiene. But for some, that idea of constant vigilance might feel overwhelming, maybe even exhausting. How does the program ensure this daily inventory doesn't become another burden or even a source of guilt or perfectionism? That's a very insightful question. The key, as the sources reveal, is that it's not about obsessively dwelling on every minor imperfection or beating yourself up. It's about quickly identifying and addressing the big 4: selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear, those specific character defects that historically led them, the alcoholic, back to drinking. It's not intended as a self-flagellation session, but as a practical tool for immediate course correction. Okay, I just felt that flash of resentment. I need to talk about that. I need to pray about that.
Wow.
This continuous self-assessment, done honestly, actually cultivates a deeper and better understanding of humility and makes one more understanding and helpful to others, as seen in daily reflections. It transforms intellectual understanding into active, real-time application of principles.
Progress, not perfection.
Exactly the phrase they use. And the immediate discussion with another person, often a sponsor or a trusted AA friend, helps prevent isolation and provides accountability. It keeps the individual humble, honest, and connected, preventing the insidious return of self-centered thinking, which is seen as the root of the problem.
Okay. And how does that conscious connection with a higher power, the one first introduced back in steps 2 and 3, continue to evolve and deepen in this ongoing daily process? What's the practical guidance for maintaining that spiritual link day to day?
That's the absolute essence of step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. This step is really the heart of ongoing spiritual growth and daily maintenance. Daily Reflections offers a useful distinction. Prayer, it suggests, changes my attitude toward God, not necessarily God's attitude toward you. It's about aligning your will with a greater purpose, seeking guidance and strength rather than dictating outcomes or just presenting a shopping list of demands.
Praying only for knowledge of his will and the power to carry it out. Not praying for specific things for me.
Precisely. It's a shift from self-centered prayer to God-centered or principle-centered prayer. And meditation, on the other hand, is often described as a quiet time without words, aimed at becoming physically relaxed, emotionally calm, mentally focused, and spiritually aware. It's about listening, not just talking. This daily practice, whether it's formal meditation, a moment of quiet reflection in the morning, conscious prayer throughout the day, is considered key to maintaining one's spiritual condition. And it's this spiritual condition the Big Book highlights, which grants a daily reprieve from the obsession to drink. It's not a permanent cure, but a daily fitness maintained through spiritual practice. It's about remembering that the power of God's grace is only limited by the understanding and will of each individual, as emphasized in 24 hours a day. It's about nurturing that connection constantly, recognizing that the spiritual solution isn't a one-time fix, but an ongoing relationship that needs tending. It's how members stay spiritually fit to face the inevitable challenges of life without resorting to old, destructive behaviors.
Right? The daily reprieve based on spiritual condition. That's a core concept. Okay, finally, the 12th step itself. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. What does this encompass? It sounds like it completes the circle of recovery, truly making it a way of life, not just a personal project.
This is truly the culmination and simultaneously the ongoing action. It's the full expression of the spiritual awakening achieved through the consistent practice of the previous 11 steps. Step 12 states, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. The joy of living is the theme of this step, according to 12 steps and 12 traditions, with action, its keyword. It's fundamentally about giving away what was freely received. You keep it by giving it away.
Keep it by giving it away.
Exactly. Daily Reflections states it beautifully. Showing others who suffer how we were given help is the very thing which makes life seem so worthwhile to us now. This service, helping another alcoholic, isn't just a recommendation or, a nice thing to do if you have time. It's described as the principal aim and the main reason for our existence as a fellowship, as detailed in the language of the heart. It's seen as vital for maintaining one's own sobriety. And the second part is just as crucial. Practicing these principles, honesty, humility, willingness, forgiveness, service, in all our affairs, not just in AA meetings, not just regarding sobriety. It means applying them in domestic relations, at work, in financial matters, how one treats a difficult coworker, how one responds to, getting cut off in traffic. Everywhere.
In all affairs. That's a tall order.
It is, but it's the goal. This full, active practice of the steps, especially by carrying the message to others who are still suffering, is what transforms, as another passage in Daily Reflections eloquently puts it, the difficulty with living into a joy of living. It's the continuous cycle of recovery, unity within the fellowship, and service to others, giving back what you found, which in turn reinforces your own sobriety and spiritual growth. It locks in the changes.
That makes sense. Okay, beyond the individual steps themselves, which clearly form the backbone of the program, what are the other vital elements, the things that create the supportive environment for this journey of recovery within AA? Because it's clearly not just a solitary pursuit, reading a book and checking off steps.
You're absolutely right. It's far from solitary. The sources consistently highlight three crucial components that form the supportive structure: the fellowship itself, the indispensable role of a sponsor, and the guiding literature. The fellowship provides a unique and incredibly powerful community. As one account in Experience, Strength, and Hope puts it so simply, AA is where alcoholics can connect with others who had thought and felt as I had.
That identification piece again.
It's huge. This sense of belonging, this mutual identification, he sounds just like me, is a powerful antidote to the profound isolation, shame, and self-condemnation often experienced in active alcoholism. Living sober makes a stark point. Alcoholics may be people who should never keep secrets about themselves, especially the guilty kind, and that almost any company of fellow recovering alcoholics is better than a bitter privacy. Meetings, which are the primary expression of this fellowship, provide, as the same book notes, a wide variety of actual case histories, helping individuals decide whether you have it. That is, whether they truly identify as alcoholic and, crucially, see that recovery is possible because they see people living it. It's where shared stories provide hope, identification, and practical guidance.
So identifying with others is a cornerstone. But beyond just finding common ground in a meeting, how does that practical daily interaction with the fellowship actually support the journey, especially for a newcomer who's trying to navigate these steps for the first time?
Well, the fellowship offers constant reinforcement and a safe space. It's where members find accountability. Just showing up regularly is a form of accountability. They find encouragement and a place to actually practice the principles they're learning. They hear how others work the steps, how they navigate challenges like cravings or difficult relationships, how they apply the spiritual principles in their daily lives. It's like a living laboratory for recovery. But a specific and deeply personal element within the fellowship is the sponsor. The sponsor isn't just a friendly face at meetings. They are often the direct personal guide through the steps.
Like a mentor.
Exactly. Think of it like a seasoned mountain guide leading a new climber up a difficult peak they've climbed before. They've been there, as Living Sober highlights, and they often have more concern, hope, compassion, and confidence for us than we have for ourselves, especially early on. Historically, the concept actually originated in the early days when sober AA members would literally sponsor patients into hospitals for detox, visit them, and then take them to meetings afterwards.
Ah, so it's very practical from the start.
Very practical. Today, sponsors listen without judgment. They help interpret the literature, which can sometimes be dense or use dated language. They provide accountability for working the steps. Have you started your inventory yet? And they're often the trusted confidant for that crucial step 5 inventory sharing. It's a unique, reciprocal relationship the sponsor benefits too by reinforcing their own recovery. And it's essential for many, particularly in the early, vulnerable stages of sobriety. They walk alongside the newcomer, offering practical advice and spiritual insight based on their own experience with the steps.
That personal guidance sounds invaluable. And then there's the literature, the written wisdom of the fellowship, which we've referenced quite a bit already. What are the key texts that guide members through this process, and what unique purpose does each one serve?
Right. The literature is indeed described as a kit of spiritual tools, a powerful phrase used right in the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous. The foundational text, the literal big book, is Alcoholics Anonymous itself. This isn't just a historical document, it's the primary roadmap. It codified the 12 steps based on the early members' experiences and contains those crucial early personal stories, the case histories, that provide identification and prove that recovery is possible. It's designed to provide a direct, almost step-by-step guide for recovery, offering practical instruction, here's the solution, and inspiring hope. It works, it really does. Its distribution, as you noted, passed 2 million by 1981, showing its immense reach and impact.
So that's the core text. What about the others?
Then there's 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, often called the 12 and 12. This serves as an interpretive commentary by Bill W., a co-founder. It offers deeper insights into the nuances and spiritual principles behind each step and, importantly, explains the 12 traditions that guide the fellowship itself. It delves more into the why behind the what. Living Sober, on the other hand, is incredibly practical. It's packed with suggestions heard at meetings over the years, the how-tos for navigating common challenges in daily life without drinking. Things like handling social events, dealing with anger or boredom, managing money sober, real nuts and bolts stuff. And finally, Daily Reflections provides exactly what its name suggests. A daily dose of inspiration and wisdom with a short reading drawn from AA literature and a member's reflection for each day of the year. It helps keep the spiritual principles front and center and offers short, digestible meditations for daily practice. These 3 elements, the supportive fellowship, the personal guidance of a sponsor, and the wisdom in the literature function together synergistically to create a dynamic, supportive, and comprehensive environment for deep, lasting recovery.
It's truly remarkable how this movement grew from just, 2 guys talking in Akron, Ohio, to a worldwide fellowship of millions. What are the broader principles, the traditions you mentioned, that guide AA as a whole? How do they ensure its unity, its effectiveness, and especially its non-hierarchical, almost anarchic structure that seems critical to its survival and ongoing growth?
This is where AA's 12 traditions come into play. They provide a framework for group and overall fellowship functioning that preserves AA's unique character and protects it from common pitfalls that plague other organizations. One of the most prominent and arguably the spiritual bedrock is anonymity. As Alcoholics Anonymous 4th edition states, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities.
Principles before personalities. What does that look like in practice?
Think of it like this. If a celebrity or a prominent public figure were to publicly declare their AA membership on national television, using their full name and face, the focus would immediately shift. It would shift from the timeless message of recovery available to anyone to that specific personality. Is AA just for celebrities now? Did famous person relapse? It would fundamentally alter the public perception and potentially compromise the core mission by attracting the wrong kind of attention or creating figureheads. By insisting on 100% anonymity at the public level, meaning press, radio, films, television, AA prevents personal ambition, ego, or public misrepresentation from harming the fellowship. It ensures the focus remains solely on the principles and the message of hope, not on individual members, no matter how well known they might be. It's a powerful statement of humility and prioritizing the common welfare.
So it prevents individual fame or notoriety from overshadowing the collective purpose and the universal message. That makes perfect sense. What about how groups function? How do they maintain cohesion across thousands of groups worldwide without a central authority dictating things?
That falls under the principles of unity. Tradition 1, our common welfare should come first, and autonomy. Tradition 4, each group should be autonomous, except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. This tradition emphasizes that group leaders, like a secretary or treasurer, are trusted servants who do not govern, as highlighted in the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions book. They serve the group's conscience, they don't dictate it. This ensures that, as the text puts it, alcoholics can't be dictated to individually or collectively. It fosters an environment where members feel responsible to spiritual principles and the group conscience, not external authority figures.
So lots of local freedom.
Exactly. It allows for broad interpretation and local adaptation of how meetings are run, format, readings, discussion topics, while maintaining core unity of purpose and adherence to the steps and traditions. It prevents internal power struggles and ensures the focus remains steadfastly on helping the next suffering alcoholic who walks through the door.
And how does AA ensure it remains free from outside influence, particularly financial influence, which can so often corrupt organizations or skew their mission?
That's robustly addressed by Tradition 7, the principle of self-support. Every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. The profound insight here, as put forth in 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, is that AA must always stay poor, relatively speaking. This isn't about advocating for poverty, of course. It's about remaining independent and unentangled. It prevents outside influence from wealthy donors, corporate grants, government funding, or political agendas. If AA were to become wealthy or accept large outside sums, it would immediately become vulnerable to internal conflicts over money and, crucially, external pressures to change its message, its methods, or endorse outside enterprises. It could be diverted from its singular primary purpose.
So the money only comes from members.
Yes, members support the fellowship voluntarily through small contributions at meetings. The basket is passed. You put in $1 or $2 if you can. This ensures AA's continued autonomy and keeps its spiritual focus pure, free from the complications and obligations that outside money inevitably brings.
And finally, AA is widely known for being non-professional. What does that mean in practice, especially as the fellowship has grown so large? How does it differentiate itself from other recovery models that might involve professional therapy or counseling?
Tradition 8, non-professionalism, means that AA remains fundamentally non-professional in its core 12-step work, that vital activity of one alcoholic helping another achieve and maintain sobriety. Now, while AA service structures, like the General Service Office that publishes literature or organizes the annual convention, may employ staff for specific administrative tasks, these individuals are not hired to do AA's 12th step work for money. This carefully separates necessary professional service roles from the voluntary, unpaid carrying of the message within the fellowship. It ensures that personal experience, spiritual awakening, and a desire to help others, not financial gain, remain the driving forces of service at the member-to-member level.
So it keeps the core interaction purely peer-based.
Exactly. It underscores that AA is an informal, spiritual fellowship of equals sharing their experience, strength, and hope, not a professional treatment organization with therapists or counselors. And it's worth remembering, as Alcoholics Anonymous 4th edition points out, these traditions weren't handed down on stone tablets. They evolved organically, sometimes painfully, from AA's fearsome and exciting adolescent period of rapid growth. They were hard-won lessons learned from addressing real-world issues like quarrels over membership, leadership, and money. These principles ensure the focus remains singularly on recovery and carrying the message, allowing the fellowship to expand dramatically, reaching, as the sources note, over 200,000 in 7,000 groups in 70 countries and U.S. possessions, way back in 1957, all while maintaining its unique integrity and effectiveness.
Okay, so pulling this all together, what does this all mean for us, having taken this deep dive into the programs? A lot to absorb, isn't it? A truly comprehensive approach to life transformation.
It really is. If we connect all these threads back to the bigger picture, it means that while the path is very clearly outlined through the 12 steps and robustly supported and protected by the 12 traditions, the journey itself is deeply, profoundly personal for each individual. It's ultimately about a fundamental transformation, what 12 Steps and 12 Traditions calls a new state of consciousness and being. And this results from consistently and humbly applying these spiritual principles in all areas of one's life, day after day. It's not about achieving some static state of perfection, but about continuous spiritual growth and trying to live differently.
So it's really not just about stopping drinking, is it? It's about a complete reorientation of self, a profound spiritual awakening, however one defines that reshapes one's entire existence.
Absolutely. That's the promise and the lived experience reported in these sources. The program offers that simple kit of spiritual tools, as stated way back in the Big Book, that when used diligently and consistently can lead not just to sobriety, but also to profound peace, renewed purpose, and often a truly joyful existence that seemed impossible before. It emphasizes core values like humility, radical honesty, profound self-reflection, forgiveness, and a genuine willingness to help others, especially fellow sufferers. The efficacy of this approach is captured in the shared experience of countless individuals, summarized so succinctly in Alcoholics Anonymous. It works. It really does.
It works. It really does. Simple, but powerful.
Very. The essence for you, the listener perhaps, is that recovery from alcoholism, or maybe overcoming any deeply ingrained, unmanageable problem or pattern in life, often begins with that crucial, courageous admission of powerlessness, that step one moment. From there, it requires finding a willingness, even just a little bit, to embrace a new way of living. And that new way is supported by a community of shared experience, the fellowship, and nurtured by a connection to something greater than oneself, however that greater power is understood by the individual. It's a journey of profound personal growth, really. From isolation and despair to connection and purpose. From self-centered fear to usefulness to others.
As we wrap up this deep dive, it's certainly clear that the program is a remarkably comprehensive and, as you say, profoundly personal journey. It's about so much more than just stopping drinking. It's about a complete reorientation of one's life, a transformation from the inside out, guided by these principles and supported by that crucial fellowship. What stands out most to you about this journey, having immersed ourselves in these sources? Is it the courage of that first admission? The surprising liberation found in admitting powerlessness? The undeniable power of community that we in recovery? Or perhaps the quiet strength found in that daily spiritual practice and continued self-honesty?
That's a tough question. So much stands out. But perhaps the most enduring insight for me is captured in a phrase from Daily Reflections. God can only do for me what he can do through me. It speaks to the active nature of this. The program offers the framework, the kit of spiritual tools, the fellowship offers support. But the transformation requires active participation, ongoing willingness, and the conscious effort to live by these principles every single day, and crucially, to pass it on. It reminds us that spiritual growth isn't passive, it's an active partnership. You have to do the footwork.
God can only do for me what he can do through me. That really emphasizes the action part, doesn't it? Okay, so what does this all mean for you listening? As you reflect on this deep dive, maybe consider what might be the key of willingness you need to place in a locked door in your own life. Maybe a door you've been hesitant to open, ready to embrace a new path or perspective. What principles before personalities might illuminate your own journey to freedom, whatever form that takes, and whatever challenges you might be facing. Something to think about. Thank you for joining us on the deep dive. We hope this exploration into the process of Alcoholics Anonymous has offered you valuable insights and perhaps sparked some new questions for your own journey of discovery. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.